Good morning, grade 7 learners. I hope you are all doing fine because this is a new day for you to learn, explore, and discover more about science. Before we start our session, let me give you these three important reminders. First, prepare your module and writing materials. Second, focus and listen attentively in our discussion. And lastly, participate actively using the comment section. For the most essential learning competency, you are expected to describe the different ecological relationship found in an ecosystem. In the previous discussion, we learned about the differences between asexual and sexual reproduction in plants and animals, as well as its various types. Before we proceed to our lesson, let us have first an activity to find out if we still remember our last topic. We will read the question carefully and I will give you 5 seconds to figure out the answer. Use the comment section to type in your answer. Are you ready? Let's start. Question number 1. What type of fertilization occurs within the female reproductive tract? Is it external fertilization or internal fertilization? Please key in now your answer in the comment section. Alright, let us now reveal the answer. The answer is internal fertilization. Remember, internal fertilization usually results in a smaller number of offspring which are cared for by the parents. Mammals, birds, and reptiles reproduce in this process. Let us proceed to the second question. What type of fertilization usually occurs when eggs are laid in a wet environment? Is it external fertilization or internal fertilization? Please key in your answer. The correct answer is external fertilization. Remember that amphibians and fishes are examples of animals that reproduce in this process. They lay their eggs outside and the male will fertilize them externally. For the third question, there are two primary ways animals reproduce: sexual reproduction and asexual reproduction. Is the statement true or false? Type your answer now. And the answer is true. Reproduction can happen sexually or asexually depending on the number of parent organisms that is involved in the process. In sexual reproduction, two individuals are involved to produce offspring. Each contributes half of the offspring's genetic makeup, while in asexual reproduction, it involves only one individual producing organism that are genetically identical to itself. Let us proceed to the fourth question. What kind of asexual reproduction takes place when the cells divide, creating two identical daughter cells? Is it budding or binary fission? Type the correct answer in our comment section. And the correct answer is binary fission. In the process of binary fission, organisms duplicate its genetic material or deoxyribonucleic acid or DNA and then divides into two parts wherein in cytokinesis, with each new organism receiving one copy of DNA or deoxyribonucleic acid. And for our last question, if the body of the parent organism breaks into pieces and produces an offspring on each part, what method of asexual reproduction is being described? Is it regeneration or fragmentation? Use the comment section to type in your answer. Let us now reveal the correct answer. The answer is fragmentation. Fragmentation refers to the process by which a living organism splits into parts that later grow identical to the original organism. The various bodies or parts that are formed due to such a process are referred to as fragments and exemplifies asexual reproduction. Very good, grade 7 students. You are all awesome. At this point, we will discuss and define the biotic and abiotic components in an ecosystem. In doing so, I would like you to take a look at this picture. Let's identify the living things and non-living things that you have observed. I will give you 1 minute to identify and key in our comment section all of the living and non-living things that you have observed. Your timer starts now. Let's reveal the answers. For abiotic factors, we have water, sunlight, soil, wind, and climate or temperature. While for the biotic factors, we have fishes, bird, frog, raccoon, and deer. Awesome, grade 7 learners! As you noticed, we can observe many abiotic and biotic components in our environment. The biotic and abiotic components in the ecosystem influence and affect each other, especially in the interactions or relationships that happen between them. With that, I know that you are all ready to pay attention to our new lesson. Now, what do ecological relationships mean? Ecological relationship describes the interaction between and among organisms within their environment. These interactions and relationships exist in an ecosystem because organisms look and need food, shelter, or protection in order to survive. In a community, interactions within and among the population may have important influences in the death and birth of the organism, and in turn, on the population growth and size. These interactions may have positive, neutral, and negative influences in the interacting population. One of the interactions that occur in our ecosystem is symbiosis. Symbiosis is the close interaction between two or more organisms of different biological species. There are three types of symbiotic relationships: mutualism, commensalism, and parasitism. Let's define each of them. Mutualism is a symbiotic relationship wherein both species benefit from each other's interaction, meaning they both gain positive effect on each other. Let's take a look at this example. We have a bee and a flower on this picture. Can you tell how they benefit from each other? Correct. Insects like bees fly from flower to flower in search for nectar, which serves as their food. Meanwhile, whenever an insect, just like bees, land on a flower, some of the pollen stick to their body, This pollen will eventually be transported to the flower when the bees transfer to another one. This results to plant pollination. In this example of mutualism, the bees get to eat and the flowering plant gets to reproduce. The next kind of symbiotic relationship that we're going to discuss is commensalism. Commensalism is a type of symbiotic relationship that happens when one organism benefits from the interaction and the other organism is left unaffected, meaning it is neither harmed nor benefited. The interaction of two organisms in commensalism is positive and neutral since one organism benefits and the other is not affected. Let's look at this example. As you see, an orchid is attached to the branch of a tree. Can you explain what happens in the interaction between them? Very good, grade 7 learners. The tree provides a place for the orchid to live, and the orchid also benefits by getting adequate sunlight. The orchid depends on the tree for mechanical support, but not for nutrients. That is why, in this interaction, the tree is not affected. In commensalism, there are two roles played by the organism, a commensal and a host. The commensal is the organism that gains benefit like nutrients, shelter, support, or locomotion from the host which is not affected. The commensal relation is often between a larger host and a smaller commensal. In the tree-orchid relationship, what is the role of the orchid? How about the tree? Very good. The orchid is the commensal while the tree is the host. Another example of commensalism is the remora fish that have a disc on their heads that make them able to attach to larger animals such as sharks, mantas, and whales. When the larger animal feeds, the remora detaches itself to eat the extra food. The next symbiotic relationship is parasitism. Parasitism happens when one organism benefits and the other is harmed. Their interaction is positive and negative since one species benefits and the other is harmed. Do you have an idea what do we call the organism that benefits on this relationship? Correct. The organism that benefits in parasitism is called as parasite, and the other that is harmed is the host. The parasite is usually a smaller organism compared to the host. The parasite may live within or inside the host just like tapeworms, inside the intestine of a cow, and they depend on the intestine of the cow for their food and nutrients. A mosquito is a parasite that feeds outside of the body of the host and it sucks blood from the skin of a man, which is the host. Parasites can cause some diseases, like bacteria and other microscopic organisms that live inside the body of the host. They cause diseases like dengue and pneumonia. Now, can you think of other examples of parasitism that we can observe in our environment? Key in your answers in the comment section. Very good, grade 7 learners. We can also take examples of dogs and fleas as parasitism. The flea sucks the blood for food and the dog is harmed by having wound in its skin. Before we proceed to the next topic, let's have this exercise to see whether you still remember the concepts we have discussed. The picture shows an orchid and a tree. What symbiotic relationship exists between them? Correct! The answer is the orchid and a tree relationship is known as commensalism. Let's have this next picture. The tapeworms inside an intestine. What do you think is the symbiotic relationship? The answer is parasitism. Very good, grade 7 learners. And lastly, what symbiotic relationship happens between the bee and the flower? That's right, it is mutualism. Awesome, grade 7 learners. Keep it up. Aside from the symbiotic relationship that we have discussed, there are also other types of interactions that happen in our ecosystem. These are called as non-symbiotic relationships. Non-symbiotic relationships are interactions of organisms that live apart from one another. Examples of non-symbiotic relationships are competition and predation. Competition is a relationship in which two or more organisms need the same thing to survive. The competition that happens between the same species of organism, which is called as interspecific competition, or in different species of organism, which is called as interspecific competition. The organisms are competing or fighting for common resources like food, water, sunlight, shelter, or even mates. One of the examples of competition is among the zebras and oxen. These organisms are competing for food and water, and even in growing space or territory. Competition may also exist within humans, and as the human population continues to increase, humans are in competition with nature. Our requirements for survival are just as basic as those of plants and animals. We breathe the same air, drink the same water, and use the same space. Can you think of another example of competition? Type your answer in the comment section. Another example of non-symbiotic relationship is called predation. It is a relationship that happens between a predator and a prey. The predator is an organism that feeds on another organism called prey. The process involves killing or eating the prey. Carnivorous animals such as tiger, lion, snake, and eagles kill and eat other animals for food. Let's look at this example. Which is the predator and which is the prey? Very good. The predator is the lion since it consumes the prey, which is the buffalo. Remember that the buffalo is the prey because it is the organism that is being consumed. Now, it's your turn to give example of predation between animals by keying it in our comment section. Let us summarize all of the lessons we have discussed. Ecological relationship describes the interaction between and among organisms within their environment. These interactions and relationships exist in an ecosystem because organisms look and need food, shelter, or protection in order to survive. There are two types of relationship in the environment, the symbiotic relationship and the non-symbiotic relationship. Under the symbiotic relationship, we have mutualism, wherein it is a symbiotic relationship where both species benefit from each other's interaction. Examples are insects and bees. Next is the commensalism, which is a type of symbiotic relationship that happens when one organism benefits from the interaction and the other organism is left unaffected, just like an orchid and a tree. The third symbiotic relationship we have is parasitism. In parasitism, one organism benefits and the other is harmed, like tapeworms inside the intestine of a cow. We also have interactions that happen under the non-symbiotic relationship, which are competition and predation. Competition is a relationship in which two or more organisms need the same thing to survive, like food, shelter, and other resources. We have two specific type of competition, which is the intraspecific competition that happens between the same species of organism and the interspecific competition that happens between different organisms. While predation happens between a predator and a prey. The predator eats and kills the prey for food, just like an eagle and a rat. Now, to check and see if you have learned our lesson, we will do this activity. Identify what kind of symbiotic relationship is shown in this picture. You will have 5 seconds to type in your answer in the comment section. Are you ready? Let's start. For number 1, a mosquito biting the skin of a human. Your 5 seconds starts now. And the answer is parasitism. The mosquito sucks blood from the human for food. The man is left harmed because he might get sick due to the dengue virus carried by it. For number 2, we have remora fish with shark. You may type now your answer in the comment section. And the answer is commensalism. Remember, remora fish have a disc on their heads that make them able to attach to larger animals, such as sharks, mantas, and whales. When the larger animal feeds, the remora detaches itself to eat the extra food. In our third situation, the bird feeding on a crocodile's mouth or teeth. The answer is mutualism. Very good, grade 7. The bird benefits by getting its food in the mouth of the crocodile, and the crocodile benefits by having the stuck food between its teeth removed. You are doing great, grade 7. Keep it up. Let's have number 4. The hyena and the lion. Please type now your answer in the comment section. You got it right. The ecological relationship shown is competition. These animals usually compete for food and territory. And for the last number, a fox eating a squirrel. Type your answer in our comment section. Excellent! The correct answer is predation. As we can see, the predator on this scenario is the fox because it eats the prey, which is the squirrel. Great work, grade 7 learners. Now, it is time for our question and answer. You have 30 seconds to key in your questions. Let's have the question from Isan National High School. Sir, what would happen to one organism involved in a symbiotic relationship if the other organism is no longer present? If the other organism is no longer present, then the balance in the ecosystem might change. For example, when the insect feeds on the nectar of a flower or gone, the reproduction of the flowering plants might decrease because the insect helps in the pollination of the various plants in the ecosystem. Let us have the question from Bonbagi National High School. Sir, do interactions between species always result in harm? Why or why not? Not all interactions always result in harm, just like in commensalism and mutualism. Remember that in commensalism, the commensal which benefits in the interaction do not affect the host, while in mutualism, both organisms in the interaction benefits. Remember the mnemonics we had earlier? For mutualism, the effect on each organism is both positive. In commensalism, the effect is positive and neutral. And in parasitism, the effects is positive and negative. For your other queries, you may address it to your science teacher during your follow-up discussion. There you have it, grade 7 learners. For your assignment, kindly answer the activities on page 24 to 27 of your science module. I hope you learned a lot and had fun with today's lesson. Thank you for listening and participating in our class today. Always keep safe and try to stay at home. God bless everyone.